All right, being after 6 o'clock, I'll call the Coos Bay City Council meeting to order. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the lateness, the start of the lateness. I see Greg Drobot here. I think, Greg, are you going to give us an update or something? Or are you just coming to have a good time with us? All right. Wow. All right. So I'll give Greg some time on the agenda. Yeah, so we'll do it. What we'll do, Greg, if it's all right with you, we have a presentation, and then I'll call you up after that, okay? So it'll be after like 5A, we'll make you 5B or something like that, make it work. All right. So we have public comments this evening, and so I'll read the criteria that goes along with that. Citizens wishing to address the City Council during the time set for public comments are requested to sign the roster, which they did. The public comment period is intended for the public to share ideas and concerns, and it is not intended for any interactive discussion with the Council. There may be opportunities for the public comments during specific agenda items that require a public hearing. Members of the public are requested to confine their remarks to questions or issues under discussion during this time. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attacks, shall not impugn the motives of any speaker, shall at all times while in session conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or unauthorized remarks or become boisterous while addressing the council. It's sad that we have to do that. I remember the day that this wasn't necessary, but today it is. Okay, so on the agenda for public comments is Heidi Sauce. Now, I just want to remind you that if you're in here for the public comment item, like consideration to reduce the on-street parking or something, then that was where I suggest you make your comment instead of up at the comment period now. So, but you're more than welcome to come up and make a public comment about whatever else there may be. So Heidi, I don't know where you want to talk.
I just wanted to make sure I got a chance, but I think that you explained it, it's when I'm on the agenda item.
Correct, and there'll be, I mean, there's a couple public hearings here, so if you want to talk more than once on those items, then that would be where you should do it, okay? Mike Powder?
Happy New Year, everybody. Well, you all knew the speed limit has been reduced on 101 to 35 or less in some areas too. But I was going through that. The ODOT have just released their summary of everything that went on. And there were two people on the committee. The committee is made of 4 people, and there were 2 on that were traffic engineers. And both of the traffic engineers were the ones that one didn't want to vote the lower speed, and one abstained, so it wouldn't be a locked jury. The other 2 that approved it, one was a police chief, and the other guy had a paramedic background. So traffic engineers are designed, or they're optimized, to speed traffic up, to keep it going fast and furious and make the corners fast and do all this. They're not too interested in, sometimes not too interested in cyclists or other road users. But anyway, I'm happy to say that was one. And we're going to be working more, I hope, on making the roads safe around here. Ocean Boulevard is still a zoo, and there's a lot of work needed on quite a few of these. So anyway, that's where I stand on that. The other thing was tonight we've got we're talking about Empire boat launch. One day it'd be nice if there's a discussion on Empire boat launch, but it's a beautiful piece of land. I'm not sure it's used properly. You know, it costs a lot of money. We maintain it. We're putting urban renewal money into fixing, something on there too that is not really what I'm thinking the urban renewal's for. It probably needs doing, but it's nothing that's making the area it's not benefiting the citizens at all. The boat launch is nice, but it really only benefits boaters. And I don't know if anybody's ever done a survey to find out where everybody comes from that uses it. They come far and wide. But anyway, that's the new year coming, so lots of projects. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, again for your leadership on the speed limit on 101. And Happy New Year to everybody. I just can't thank you enough for sticking that out. It was kind of painful to listen to the ODOT. Anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody. And since we've got their attention to complete the safety corridor, I noticed that the Front Street community bike people they're all over the world right now. But the key to bringing people from the waterfront up to this town and up to Mingus Park and stuff is that half of Market Street. It's the Market Street, it's crossing 101 north. That's the key and people keep getting hit there because they wait their turn for the horde coming down from Safeway to make a left turn, but they don't realize that people want to go. And when they make a left turn, there have been quite a few injuries there. And so since we have ODOT's attention, it might be good. And they're going to be working on 101 because we're having flooding and tide gate things and stuff like that. And I'd like to give you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give you, that is the connection, the boardwalk. That's the connect the boardwalk thing that North Bend did, and we can work.
Thanks.
This is when the badges come off. If you have any questions about what my dreams are, the badges come off. Give me a call, and again, thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Dean. All right, so we'll move on. Next item is the consent calendar. Oh, first of all, I want to mention that we have, besides the three of us here, we have Carmen Matthews, Councilor Matthews, Councilor Cribbins, and Councilor Stevens that are virtual with us this evening. And Councilor Niebergall is ill and was unable to participate either way. So anyway, with that being said, we'll continue on. So first, next item is consent calendar. And in there was what Mike had referenced. We have a grant for the State Marine Board. And how much was that for, Nicole? You remember this? Hold on a second.
The project is approximately $500,000, and it's a 75%.
Yeah. So it's quite a large grant, and I know that Mike had some concern about it, but we have a lot of individuals that participate with that boat dock and like it, and I don't know if we didn't continue with it. Anyway, it's been very popular, and so far, in this case, we have the grants to move forward with it. So anyway.
Mr. Mayor, I did want to ask a question on this one. I would imagine this will come before come before the council to review what it looks like. And there's a lot of interest, obviously, in this boat dock, much like our public parks. And I just want to make sure this council understands what that looks like.
Yeah, so this is a required element in order to just put an application in. We need to get your authorization to do the application process. We'll still follow the same things we do normally. We get a grant when we get the award. We'll be back to you with acceptance of that. With those dollars, then we'll have to contract out that work. That contracted work comes to you as well, so there'll be opportunities.
Yeah, so that's the $567,000 that was been brought up, and the city's obligation is 25%. And what Mike had mentioned earlier is using urban renewal funds. So the urban renewal funds will be doing that part on the match. And so I'm a proponent of urban renewal. It can be used in multiple ways, and this is just one that I think is positive. So council, how would you like to proceed?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar submitted. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Next item on the agenda is a presentation for the East Side Housing Feasibility Presentation. Who is handling that this evening?
Well, I think Jennifer's starting us, and then we have folks here to share. And I just apologize for those of you, we're gonna look at that screen as we have one that's offline.
Oh, my God, we do. Okay.
All right, can you hear us okay?
We sure can.
All right, great. And if I could share my screen I can project these slides, or maybe somebody does that in the room for me.
You can
I
share
think
your
this-
screen now.
Yep, great. Just give me 1 second. Okay. How's that?
We don't have anything.
There we go.
Can you see that?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for making time for us tonight. My name is Zach Bells. I'm a land use planner with AKS Engineering and Forestry, and we just want to spend no more than 10 minutes providing a quick summary tonight of the proposal and the approach that we outlined in the East Side redevelopment feasibility study that we submitted to the city back in November. Really, the point for the presentation tonight is to make sure that we're on the same page before we hit the ground running. We want to make sure that we're aligned on our project approach. So we're just going to take a few minutes to kind of walk through a summary of that approach, and then we'll open it up to any feedback and comments you have. We're not going to spend any time tonight going into site details or project details. We'll do that at an upcoming meeting in early February. We're going to have a public open house where we'll get into some more of the details. Again, the focus tonight is really on just making sure that we're aligned on how we're going to approach this project. Before we jump into it, I'll just tell you a little bit about AKS. AKS is a locally owned firm based in the Pacific Northwest, and we've been providing land development services to a really wide range of both public and private sector clients for the last 30 years. We have a complete suite of land development services in-house that really effectively enables us to provide these types of comprehensive and robust feasibility analyses for our clients. So Tyler and I, and Tyler's joining me tonight, Tyler Roth, along with some of your city staff and staff at the Port of Coos Bay, will manage this project along with another group of folks who are shown here. And we've got, really, just given the nature of the site and what the city and port are looking at for the site, we have kind of a comprehensive team of folks on our project team as well. So we've got surveyors, transportation engineers, wetland scientists. We know there's wetlands on the site. We've got construction professionals that are going to help us understand some of the construction complications and challenges associated with moving forward with the development on the property. We've got a geotechnical consultant on the team, as well as an economist. Again, the purpose is really to understand whether or not the private market can support new residential development or other types of development on this site, given the infrastructure and other improvement costs that will be necessary to move forward with a potential development here. So really, this is kind of the meat of our approach, and really what we'd like your feedback on. Based on some of the information that we got from the city, that the city prepared, the city consulted with folks to prepare back in 1996 and 2000. And after that, we know that there are some constraints on the site. And so we're hoping to take kind of an iterative approach where we upfront identify geotechnical constraints and the costs associated with improving the ground conditions on the site in a way that would support redevelopment of the site. The goal there is that we can kind of quickly move to see if there's a real discrepancy between the cost to improve the land and kind of the market's ability to support development of that site. If it turns out that there is a really, really big disparity between those two things, we're going to suggest that the city potentially pivot to looking at other lower intensity uses like sports fields or parks or something like that, that would have less need for ground improvement, less need for infrastructure improvements and things like that. If it does turn out during that early analysis that it looks like development on the site is feasible, we'll continue to dig deeper into some of that preliminary design. We'll look more closely at development costs and the market reality associated with two discrete scenarios. And so, again, if it looks like the difference between the cost to improve the site and the ability for the market to support development on the site is relatively aligned, we can look at the first scenario, which would be 500 new homes on the site, and that's essentially the concept that was put together by the city in a 1996 study called the East Side Development Strategy, or that was put together by the port in the city. That is closely aligned with the city's goal for 450 housing units on the site. Another scenario we're suggesting would be to look at kind of a lower impact option, maybe to limit development to only those portions of the site where there are fewer geotechnical constraints, and then again, kind of correspondingly limit the disturbance on areas that are more costly to develop. Like I mentioned, that approach is informed by a lot of the prior work that the port and the city have done on this site. The geotechnical conditions are one of the big constraints that we see here. That 2000 report prepared by Foundation Engineers, which is on our team, really recommends that the site is unlikely to be suitable for new residential development just because of the predominance of sand and silt throughout the site. We also know that there's potentially some limitations in the city's sanitary sewer system in the area that could potentially be costly. And then when considering the addition of this many new homes on the site, it's important that we also consider the need to improve the transportation network, not just in the immediate vicinity of the site, but also in the larger vicinity, as people will need to use those kind of off-site intersections and roadways to get to and from their homes and to and from jobs in the area. So we'll look at those things in terms of their overall cost impact as it relates to the kind of the ultimate feasibility to develop the site. So over the next couple of months, we are going to be compiling and reviewing background data. We're going to be meeting with residents and other stakeholders. I mentioned before, we've got kind of a preliminary meeting with, I guess we have been tentatively discussing a February meeting with the public to kind of introduce the project and get preliminary feedback. And then we're going to start working on the initial geotechnical and market studies. So that's all the stuff that's going to be coming up immediately. We are targeting to deliver this final feasibility report to the city by the end of April of this year, which is a pretty quick turnaround. And over that time, we've got three public meetings on the schedule, and then one final meeting with the city council to present to you that final report. So we've got this initial open house in February where we'll introduce the project. We have a second open house probably in late February. We're going to share the results of our infrastructure analysis and then discuss alternatives with members of the public and other stakeholders. And then we are planning for a final open house sometime in March where we'll share the draft findings of our report and then ask meeting participants and stakeholders to weigh in on their preferred alternatives and prioritize development options. All of that feedback is going to inform the analysis and the report that we'll present to you in April, sometime probably mid-April, where we'll walk through the findings, we'll walk through the public comments, and we'll present our recommendations. And then at that meeting, we'll ask for you to provide your final feedback and recommendations on revisions for the report, which will then be converted into that final document that we'll deliver to the city by the end of April. So really quickly, that's the summary of how we plan to approach this project. We think it's given the budget and the timeline that was outlined in the city's RFP, we think that's the approach that will give us clear, actionable insights into what's really truly feasible for the property. And with that, we appreciate your time and look forward to any feedback that you care to share. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So before we get started and ask some questions, for a little background on this, back, I think it was 96 that was referenced. The Port of Coos Bay came to the city of Coos Bay and asked us to change the zoning from industrial to residential. And that's what we did because they had a plan, I think that's going to be looked at, that the port has, of how to move forward on this. Ever since this thing has just kind of stalled and sat there. And we have a housing problem, as we all know. We have Greg Drobot and Daniel doing a 400-home development. We have a 30-unit facility in Inglewood that's being done. And this is another possibility. And so collaboration with the port, we got a grant for $100,000 to go ahead and do an analysis of this and to determine whether it can happen or not and when it is to move forward with it. I can tell you one of the things and the impediments that I can see we're going to need is infrastructure there. And again, I'm going to, and we've talked to the port to go up with this and lobby for, I think, some dollars for infrastructure that I think we are due. I see other communities get it, and I think we have a right to get it if they want to move forward and see the development that we have here and have it happen. Without housing, in my opinion, none of that can happen. So we just also did this at Berry Hospital. Greg was involved as the developer with the hospital at that time. We got a grant from DLCD to do an analysis, and we have a project sitting there. Now, we also know that it's going to take $3.5 million in infrastructure to make that project work. Without that, it's not going to be cost effective. But at least we have some plans in hand to determine how do we need to move forward. So I think it's great that we take this and move forward with it. So with that, I'm going to stop. Councilors, any questions?
I just wanted to commend, we've got port leadership here, and we have new commissioners here, and I just want to say thanks. This is exactly what the city has wanted for a really long time, which is collaboration and transparency for not only council, but for the citizens that live in this community, and I think this is a perfect example of that. So I'm really excited to see where we land. I'm going to challenge the consultants. You said the report about the feasibility of that site was like in 2000, is that right? So maybe something's changed in 25 years that might allow us to have housing there. So I'm going to challenge you there. I know a report is a report, but I also think we've got new leadership and new perspective, so it might be nice to see what that looks like. And then you also said that you were going to have a series of public meetings. So my questions to the consultants are, what does that look like? How are you going to be reaching out to the residents so they get to help be involved in what potentially this could look like, recognizing that it is the port's property?
Yep, great question. So we've talked with the port's representative a little bit about that. We haven't fully fleshed out our outreach plan at this point. We'll continue to work with staff on that, but we do plan to involve a diverse stakeholder audience, including members of the tribe and other folks, as you know, the city is as well adept at doing for projects like this. The open houses will plan to be in person. I'm not sure if we have the ability to make those kind of hybrid types of meetings, but to the effect that that's of interest to the city and that's something we can accommodate, we'll absolutely do that. But one of the highlights I think that stood out in our proposal was that we're really focusing on making sure that public feedback informs the decisions going forward. And so there will be an appendix in our report and as part of every memo that moves us to the subsequent stage of work that outlines how that public input has helped to shape the recommendations from the project management team.
Thank you very much.
Other comments, questions?
I don't really have any questions. I've looked at, the basic outline for the plan, and I want to say how exciting this is. I've been on the council since 2016. We've talked about this, and I too want to echo how important it is to us that we have you from the port here in attendance tonight, and all the wonderful collaborations that we've had in your leadership since you've taken over. We really appreciate that. And I think, communication has always been a key component to me, making sure that our citizens are aware of what's happening and the impacts that could have. And so I appreciate the outline of making sure that we're communicating that. I mean, we won't reach everyone. We think we can. And you use every avenue that you have to reach the public, and in the end, when the decisions are being made, somebody says, I didn't even know about it. But I appreciate that there's a good outline of what's going to take place, so that everyone's involved in how we have, make this happen or figure out what to do. Housing is an issue. I just attended a presentation today, and I think, I'll say it again, if others outside of this area would look at what rural communities are doing to maintain resiliency, I think we set a good example for other places in the state, so I appreciate this very much.
Troy, Carmen, Sarah, comments, questions?
I will make a comment. Sorry, I'm trying to be, and you may have mentioned it and I missed it, but, and I believe in the presentation, there's going to do a study of the bridge, right? Because that bridge capacity is sort of make or break, right?
Yep. That's absolutely something we'll look at, is not just that bridge, but like all the other intersections leading up to this area.
Right. Thank you.
We had a chance at one time to get that bridge replaced. ODOT had it on, there was going to build, but I think the waterway became waterway, and so the bridge did not continue to be.
We have Dean and Mike here, though, so they got the speed limit reduced on 101, so we can give them that project to fix.
All right. Are there any other comments? Anyone? All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. I look forward to see how this shakes out and how we can work together on this and hopefully get it to happen. Also, one other comment. This is a unique piece of property because it's in urban renewal. So that's another asset that can help this thing move forward and develop. And so I'm eager to see how it's going to happen. So anyway, thank you. Next,
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you down here, right?
For sure. Yes, we will.
So Greg, this is the time I've allotted you to come up and give us an update on your project. And so thank you for coming.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you very much. I wanted to give a short update on Timber Cove. We are now a little over a year since we broke ground at Timber Cove. And if you've seen recent pictures and had a chance to drive up there, you can drive up there, by the way, now. Lindy Lane is all improved, and the first 2 streets of Timber Cove are improved. We are very excited because within the next 30 days, we hope to have our first phase plat recorded. We're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and getting all the details finalized, but having 30 homes available to be purchased and built is pretty exciting. So we're hoping for February. Daniel's already put his application in for permits and is all over Marcy to try to get that going. So
Of course.
we're there. But I want to just give a couple updates of where we've come. Over the last year, we've moved close to 100,000 cubic yards of dirt from the first phase to the second phase, including the purchase of the property. We're in close to $19 million in investment into this project. And that does not include the pump station, so add that on top of that. Pretty significant investment, and we're excited to finally begin to have some homes to develop and contribute to the pool in the area. So we also have signed an agreement with Pacific Properties to be our agents to help sell that. So I don't know if you've seen the sign that they've put on their billboard out front, but Randy and his team there are doing a great job. So we're very excited. We're taking reservations. We have quite a few, and we're also going to be building some spec homes as well right out of the gate. So everything is still pretty much what we've planned. Costs, we're trying to hold as much as we can. It's still going to be in the low 400,000 to start. And hopefully, Nicole, in the next 60 days, we have some Merle grants, possibly. So you know, back to what we're talking about, infrastructure, that really is the deal killer in all of these projects. For us to keep the price where we all want it to be, we have to build it at volume, and then that means building huge infrastructure. So anything we can do to help with that, that's only going to increase housing. So very exciting. We've run into little hurdles across the time, but nothing that I'm unfamiliar with. So we just keep pushing forward. And I want to thank the city, everyone involved that's helped, problem solving, you know, crossing bridges, all that. So thank you very much. It's going very well. We hope it's going to be a great year.
I think so. I'm glad that you've taken this project on, and I remember driving up there in mud and dirt, and it was a great view, so I'm anxious to go back and check it out again. So
Yeah.
there's been a good relationship with you, and like you said, that pump station is something that we were able to participate with and help this project move forward. Without that infrastructure, this housing project probably wouldn't be here. So thank you for taking it on. We
course.
appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you and seeing more updates, Greg. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance amending Chapter 2.35 of the Coos Bay Municipal Code. Is that this piece here that I
No, that's the next one. We'll keep this
don't
one
have
easy.
to worry about this one?
No, this one,
All right.
we'll keep it simple.
So go ahead, Chelsea.
Yeah, so this is, before you, you have some text amendments to the provisions that current adopted code regulate our planning commission. The intent here is to ensure the city remains effective when making land use decisions. We are obligated to make a final land use decision and resolve through the appeal process all like determinations within a standard 120-day timeline. And so we have a planning commission. They serve under our Oregon Statewide Planning Goal 1, which is citizen involvement, to afford the citizens opportunities to weigh in on land use decisions. But it's a commission made of volunteers. And so if at any time we don't have a quorum in place to make a decision, that can set us back in time. And so that's detrimental for the city trying to make decisions within 120 days, detrimental for applicants, time and money. And so we are just making a few code amendments to help ensure that we can just keep the process smooth. And so allowing a commission of up to 7 instead of requiring it, allowing the planning administrator to call special meetings if and when needed, making the planning administrator, planning division responsible for enforcing the duties of planning commission rather than expecting the planning commission to do that themselves. Just some simple, small changes, but I think it'll make a difference in helping us moving forward.
All right, so council comments before I open up the public hearing?
I wanted to make sure I understood the quorum. So there are 7 members on this commission, and if we cannot, and a quorum is a majority, but if we cannot get to 4, then 3 will suffice. And if we can't get to 3, then it comes before council.
Correct.
Is there any downside to that?
I think as long as you provide the opportunity for the public hearing, you can still even allow at Planning Commission an opportunity for comment. They just couldn't make a decision or recommendation. So you're still giving, it's all about public input. So you're still offering that opportunity. And if you can't get the 3 members minimum to make the recommendation or decision, I don't see a downside to just kicking it to the council because you're saving time rather than having to wait for another Planning Commission meeting. Hopefully they have a quorum. You know, maybe they don't, so now you're 2 months out potentially having to go to council.
Yeah, I guess by the one comment I would make is that the citizens wanted to serve on this committee, and so I feel like if they're wanting to serve, then they need to serve and they need to be there. And I see that we've updated the language to reflect that. So I would give like a yes, but like it's a soft yes, because I really feel it's, I mean, we all sit at this dais, and we've sat here, at least Stephanie and I, since 2016, giving a lot of our time, and we're appreciative of the volunteers. But if they're gonna serve, then they actually need to be at the meetings because we appreciate their perspective. And my concern is if it's reduced to 3, then we're not getting the full expertise of that commission.
Just a follow-up question, has this been an issue?
Attendance has been an issue over the last year, yeah.
Do you feel that having the other aspects of this in there helps you deal with that, where you can actually address the quorum issue?
I do. I feel like it gives us the room to move forward. Obviously, the intent is that we have a full commission and they're coming and they're hearing, and I think maybe this year we have new members, so hopefully it's not an issue, but if and when it is an issue, we're not stuck.
Okay, I understand that you're working under, the clock is ticking and you have to, and for us, when we're talking about efficiency, you know, and streamlining and things that cost people money, we want to be cognizant of that too. But I too am concerned that we really rely on those recommendations because they have that collaborative experience in that realm. I think the Planning Commission actually has a harder job sometimes than we do because they have to be aware of all the statutes that they are governed by. Those decisions are governed by. So I too just want to state that concern right up front. But I think if you have the other components which allow you to address absenteeism or things like that, that can maybe be the warning, for lack of a better word, instead of just a hammer.
Yes, that's, just to point out, currently, Planning Commission is expected to police themselves. And that's kind of a hard ask of volunteers to say, you're not showing up, we're gonna kick you off. Moving forward, we'd like to give that to the planning division so they can come to council and say, hey, it's an issue, we need to appoint someone else. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other councilors' comments for Chelsea before we open the public hearing? All right, hearing none, I think you've heard the criteria that we're going to be discussing. So I'll open the public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance amending the chapter 2.35 of the Coos Bay Municipal Code. This will change the amount of planning commissioners, the way it works from has to be 7 members to it can be 7 members. So if you'd like to comment on this, come forth, give us your name and the city you reside in and your comment, please. Any comments? Yes, come on up.
Christine Moffett, live in Empire, Coos Bay. I have concerns about this reduction in public involvement, and I and I think that Chelsea's trying to deal with realities of doing things. So I was just wondering, is there an option to have a member at large or some kind of way that you could increase the participation that wouldn't be maybe a voting member, but they'd be informed or something like that? So you would, I don't know. I just feel like there might be another way out of this other than, because if we throw it to council, then you guys haven't got the background and you're going to have, you know, how are you going to figure that out? So I know it's really hard to get volunteers. I get worn out. And, but is there a way to kind of increase the strength of that committee to where you'd have somebody that could pinch hit, that wouldn't necessarily be an appointed, but goes to the meetings, that could sit in? And I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's another way. And I read this and I thought, I get it. And, I hear this. And so I'm just saying, is there another creative solution to how to handle it? I don't know, but I applaud your reticence, because 3 people deciding something, is different from a 7-person committee. Thank you.
It is. So is there any, I don't know how we would do that. The charter doesn't read.
I was just going to maybe kind of speak a little bit more to what Chelsea's kind of tried to address. Like, our goal is to have a fully seated planning commission. And where we stand right now, when those folks are appointed to those positions, they hold a term. And for that term, they are charged with policing each other with attendance. And so for 4 years, someone may or may not attend regularly, but their partners at the dais are not willing to police that. So what we're saying with this is, we want 7, and we're going to be a part of that now to help bring those folks who maybe just aren't doing their part. Let's open that back up so the community can put their name back in the hat and now become a new member. Otherwise, we're sitting 4 years waiting for that term to expire so that other folks can get maybe access to that seat. So that's really what we're trying to do, is give a mechanism to help transition folks who maybe are not interested in serving to the level that requires on the Planning Commission.
And are we gonna, will they be held to the standard? I guess would be my next question. So if they miss a certain number of meetings, then there's gonna be notification, and is that coming from the city?
Correct. That-
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's our goal, because I think we've had several meetings that they're unable to take action, and it is a lot of work on our side, and it's a lot of work on the applicant side, and so we want to be able to help that work move forward.
And if I can just, Ms. Moffett mentioned reduction in public involvement. That's not the case. We would still have a public hearing, we'd be here. If you don't have the quorum, we still take the public comment. We still compile all of that, and staff would still bring it to council. So you're still having public involvement opportunity, and staff is still providing Planning Commission, the public, council with all of the input related to the land use decision. So you're not removing any opportunities. I just want to make that clear. But yes, the intent is that we have the full, and this gives us the full seated membership, and this gives us the opportunity to make those moves as we need to, rather than waiting 4-year terms.
I just want to add too that we get, the council gets recommendations from the Planning Commission, and there have been times where we have had very, very small pieces that have come to us, and we've had, 600 pages that have come to us that we've had to digest, and there have been some modifications to those recommendations based on information that staff has gathered and communicated to the council. So I think there is a mechanism as well, even if it was reduced to the 3 members. I know I said I'm concerned about this, but at the same time, I also know that there is work that is done, and there have been times in the past where we have digested the information and made slight changes to that.
Any other public comments on this? All right, hearing no other public comments, I'll close the public hearing to consider this enactment and ordinance amending the Charter 2.35 of Coos Bay Municipal Code. So council comments on this. I understand the concern about not having 7, but the intent is to have 7, and this will give us the ability, I hope, to get that 7 that we want, but it also will not restrict any development or process that needs to move forward.
I think that's great, Mr. Mayor. I think in a year's time, I would love for you to bring back how many times the vote was just 3 people, so that this council can get a better idea of what that looks like. And maybe at that time, we just take the first half of your recommendations, that if you're not willing to show up regularly, then we would ask you not to serve, and we go back to that 4-person decision in a year. So let's see how this works.
Right, but we're going to be charged with making sure this comes before us, and that there's going to be the Planning Commission, right? If not, we have to take action to try to fill that spot or do something about it.
We'll find out really easy.
Right, so I think we'll find, we'll know, okay, I think. And hopefully this council will move forward and start looking for people that might want to serve on the Planning Commission, so, all right? Troy, Sarah, Carmen, comments?
No comments.
All right.
I mean, that's a lie. I do have a comment. I think that we do a really good job of trying to recruit volunteers. And I think Chelsea is just dealing with the facts of us trying to get things through. And we can dance around this all we want about how we need more people involved in that. But unless people are willing to be involved, there isn't anything we can do about it. So we're going to have to come up with something so that we're not prevented from doing the business of the city because we wish we had more volunteers. So unless people are actually willing to step up and do it, I don't know what else we can do. We can want it, we can wish it, we can market it, but somebody actually has to step up and do it. I guess I'm saying I'm fine with our changes that they've come up with in order for us to keep things moving.
So, and I don't want to diminish the planning commission members that have served because they've done an outstanding job. And, it's really a tedious job, very demanding, and there's a lot of involvement in this, and Chelsea can attest to it. So I know what they go through, and we're fortunate to have some commissioners that keep reapplying and serve and have the expertise and the knowledge. So it's great to have. Okay, with that said, how do you want to move forward, council?
I move we enact the ordinance amending chapter 2.35 of the Coos Bay Municipal Code.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to consider the enactment of the ordinance amending chapter 2.35 of the Coos Bay Municipal Code. Will you take the roll call, please? Chelsea, or who's taking it? Chelsea, not Chelsea, excuse me. Christine.
An ordinance of the City of Coos Bay, Oregon, amending a portion of ordinance number 507, codified as Coos Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 2.35, Planning Commission. Counselor Matthews?
Aye.
Counselor DeNovo?
Aye.
Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer?
Aye.
Counselor Stevens?
Aye.
And Counselor Crivens?
Aye.
Ordinance number 589 has been duly enacted.
All right, thanks, Christine. Next item is a public hearing also to consider a type 4 land use application 187-25-000, 138-PLNG for text amendments and code cleanup requires enactment of an ordinance. Nothing's easy when it comes to land use planning. But anyway, there we go. And Chelsea, you want to?
It's all you, Mayor.
All right, so this, do you want to give it? Yeah.
So I would appreciate if you would read through the script a little bit and some of that standard language just to cover our process.
Okay, so there's a process we have to go through before we get into the detail and the nuts and bolts of why this is even here. So it is, I'll call this to order, and the staff will make a presentation and a recommendation, and then we will have public testimony. I will ask to hear from people who are speaking in favor of it, and then I will ask for people who are speaking in opposition of it. Finally, if there's any that are neutral comments and questions on this and about the proposal, neither for or nor against. City staff may then present additional material and recommendations based on the public testimony. After each presentation, I may ask the question from the council for anyone wishing to speak who are signed up on the sheet and provided us will be called to speak and state their name and address for the public record. We ask each speaker to limit their time to 3 minutes. Please remember that all presentations will be timed. You will be informed when you are allotted time and expired, and all speakers exceeding that time limit will be asked to stop with their remarks, please. To minimize repetitive testimony, of course, if there's an organization, I'm not sure that's a group here, we'll ask one person to speak for that group to expedite it. Each person may testify once unless they called back to the podium by a counselor or a member to ask a question to clarify that. So then I'll go ahead and ask if there's any conflicts of interest, ex parte contact by the city council, and each one will ask to be disclosed if they do or if they don't. And then I'll ask the counselor for the members to disclose that, as I said. For both types of conflicts, personal or financial, we'll ask them to make the comment for the record. And then I will Ask the audience as conflicts of interest, secondary contacts, and biases related to that council member for whatever reason that may be. Okay, Chelsea, you need to start numbering these pages for me.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and so the state law requires me to tell you that a number of things at the beginning of the hearing. First, that the applicable substantive criteria that apply to this application are contained in the notice of the public hearing and written staff report and will be identified and discussed in oral staff report. ORS 197-797, subsection 5, subsection A. Second, your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the criteria or other criteria that are comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to the application under ORS 197-797-5-B. Third, failure to raise an issue accompanied by a statement or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people an opportunity to respond may preclude the appeal of a decision on this application based on this issue. ORS 197-797-5C. A decision by the City Council may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals. Luba? And so now we will hear from the staff to move forward on a staff report by Chelsea. Did I cover everything?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be as brief as possible, but still happy to answer questions. Okay, let me see. There we go. So this is what I'm calling a development code cleanup. It is a proposal to amend Title 17 for consistency with state and federal laws and to align our code with current city plans, policies, and internal processes. So these are the highlights. It's fairly substantial. I'll admit it's not a comprehensive overhaul. Some of the key points, we looked at the procedures chapter, which talks about the different types of land use reviews that we have, what those processes are, what the requirements are for application. And we just streamlined those and really made them match what we're currently doing in practice. Definitions, we added some definitions for clarity. Childcare, there's been some childcare law that's been put into place related to how and where cities must allow siting of childcare, so we've addressed that with these amendments. Residential infill of small commercial lots. The city completed a housing production strategy a couple years ago. One of the strategies was to allow residential development of small commercial vacant lots, undeveloped lots, so 15,000 square feet or less, lots that wouldn't be likely to be developed for commercial use. So we've made an allowance in the code for that. Simplified design standards in the commercial zone districts. For example, the Waterfront Heritage Zone District has some pretty stringent architectural design standards. The commercial zone districts have similarly some design standards that have been seen as barriers, and so we've removed or streamlined those to make it easier for development. Manufactured dwelling siting standards, that's similar to childcare. There's new law that says a city cannot require a single manufactured dwelling, require anything of it that you wouldn't or don't require of a stick-built. And so we've just made that clear in the code. Our sign regulations, we've revised those to be content neutral. And so the regulations here are similar to what North Bend is doing, and so across both communities, the sign standards should be fairly similar and content neutral. The goal there is to not take away people's ability to place signs, but to make it more broad, more able within content neutral standards. And then chain link fences, that's been a big topic of discussion, at least at the Planning Commission level. In our commercial zones, our UR, or urban renewal districts, there are provisions prohibiting chain link fences. It's just been an issue because the chain link fence for the public is more secure, it's a more cost-effective fence. And so Planning Commission, we talked about this, we had fence contractors come in and they settled on kind of a compromise where maybe we do allow the chain link fence where it's visible in the right of way in our urban renewal district, but it needs to be like a black vinyl coated chain link fence. So those are some of the highlights of what is in the code. Mostly it's doing things like in the different zone districts, you might have like a special off-street parking standard in the chapter or a special landscaping chapter standard in the chapter. And instead of having those all spread out throughout the code, we just took them and moved them to like the off-street parking chapter or the supplementary chapter. And so it's much easier for staff and for the public to be able to find what applies to me. Just a brief background. So the current code, it's fairly inconsistent across chapters, and that makes it difficult to implement for staff. It makes it difficult for the public to use, and as mentioned, it presents barriers to development. So over the course of the last 2 years, 2023 through 2025, Planning Commission has conducted workshops to consider the updates related to the housing defenses, design standards, and permitting processes. And so today, we've kind of got to a point where we can stop and bring the amendments forward for adoption. It's really hard to just pick something and do an amendment and bring it forward without a trickle-down effect within the code. So we finally kind of got to a nice place. The goal here, moving forward this year, would be to take these code amendments and then moving into we have a DLCD housing assistance grant that's going to look at housing-focused amendments in the code. We would then move forward and do some more very housing-focused amendments. So just for purposes of the land use process, public notice is required. There's a lot of notice required. We submitted the proper notice to Department of Land Conservation and Development. We posted and mailed proper notices on City Hall and the newsletter to outside agencies. The notice was published in the World newspaper in October. We had to revise, reschedule public hearings, so we even sent additional notice to people, making sure they knew the public hearing was rescheduled. And on December 9th, Planning Commission conducted the initial public hearing. At that time, we didn't receive any written or oral testimony. Since then, I've had one citizen who's taken the time to review the code and ask questions. I really appreciate that. But of course, tonight we have more opportunity for comment and questions. And so, conclusion, Planning Commission did recommend Council approve as presented, and that would require enactment of an ordinance. If Council does, after public hearing and deliberations, want to make any modifications, you just want to make sure that you call those out in your motion. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
How long have you been working on this?
For the past 2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah, so going back again a little bit, just for some clarification and a little bit of history, back in 2015, I think, wasn't there a brand new plan, land use planning? And so I came and testified. I wasn't serving on the council, and I was pushed hard not to do that. This one, if you look at it, you can see what's in the code and the track changes. That didn't happen. He just threw it out and drafted one, and it was a mess. And we've been cleaning it up ever since that time. And so finally, I think, Chelsea said, okay, 2 years ago, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but we need to address this because it was causing multiple problems and issues within the city and the developers. And so I'm glad to see this. At least we have something that I think is going to be more friendly. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I agree with Mayor Benetti. I think that we did have a big change in 2015, and there were a lot of learnings from that, and there was recognition that that didn't work as I think was originally intended. And so I'm always like, okay, if I'm coming to this meeting, what are they trying to do? And in this instance, it really is a code cleanup to make things consistent, to ensure that the process to work with the city is easier. And so I commend you, Chelsea, for all of the work to help us get to a place where really all we're trying to do is make sure that we're doing the good work, the right work, and we're being consistent, and we're being transparent. And so I really appreciate your work on it.
Other comments before we open the public hearing or questions for Chelsea? Anyone? All right. I'll see if I can follow the script now. All right. Where are we at here? Thank you. Thanks. All right. We will now hear from any other, I need a lot of help on this. Person in support of the proposal. Each will have 3 minutes, as I mentioned earlier. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record. So I will first start. Will we hear from any person in opposition to this proposal? Each will have 3 minutes. I know there's a lot here. There's like 150 pages. It was tasking for me to go through it and do it, but a lot of it I liked. But anyway, is there any opposition to this plan as submitted or proposed? None? All right. So we will now hear, oh, I said opposition, didn't I? Okay, so now we will now hear from any person in support of the proposal. They have 3 minutes. No? All right, any neutral one that wants to make a comment? Well, you guys make, Heidi, come on up, please. And just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Heidi Sauce, 155 East Market Street. And Chelsea has been wonderful to work with. This is comprehensive stuff. And it took a lot of time to try and go through it and ask Chelsea questions. Chelsea gave me answers to all of them. The only one that I don't know whether it belongs in this part under this agenda item or the last D agenda item, but Chelsea, we were talking about it, and it is referring to in the code, and I think it was already in there, but it reiterates it. And it says it multiple times that one of the goals is to offer lots of pedestrian access to the waterfront, and this is specifically in Goose Bay at the waterfront. And their maps, kind of different maps that have been distributed of overlooks and public access to the waterfronts on the east side of the boardwalk that we're talking about putting in. And I have strong concern about the safety of that endeavor in industrial points that are existing businesses where it is unsafe to encourage the public to come down to the waterfront. And I would specifically from the south end, from Sauce, all the way to basically the museum, where it is, that would make sense up there. But Chelsea's suggestion was that maybe, and Chelsea, you said maybe it could be revised to accept out industrial areas. So that's my hope.
Okay, Chelsea?
Yeah, thanks, Heidi. So she's right. The current code for the Waterfront Heritage Zone District emphasizes that there's a need and a requirement to provide public access to the waterfront, and it even talks about like substantial. So that was carried over in these amendments. It was moved to supplementary under pedestrian access 17.335.090. I know it's real small, but this is the part. So down on sub 4, developments along the waterfront shall provide pedestrian access to and along the waterfront. I think you could say accepting industrial uses, or you could somehow, if you wanted, to make it an exemption for industrial use on the waterfront, that's not the case. It doesn't resolve the matter that Heidi, like where you had public right-of-way adjacent your property, and if the city were to vacate it, the owner adjacent would still be responsible to provide some kind of similar access somewhere else. That's a different issue. But just under the zoning ordinance, if council would desire to, you could change that language to where it's not all development, maybe acknowledging industrial development doesn't make as much sense.
So, I'm glad you're here, Heidi. So
Do you
how's
want me
it
to stay
going
up here?
Pardon?
Do you want me to stay up here?
Yeah, if you want to, sure. So the question being is, the city has right-of-ways, and in this case, one of them, Heidi had, and Dale, and so they were able to vacate that property. But these other right-of-ways that are, they are blocking access. Now, how would that fall under this category?
And maybe I'm confusing it. This category, current code says right-of-way or not, if you're on the waterfront, you need to provide this boardwalk access. And that's been something that staff has not been enforcing because it's terribly difficult for a private property owner, developer to make that happen. So that's very much separate from the right-of-way access issue. So this is on private property.
So, I mean, the code right now requires the industrial areas, or even not non-industrial, to provide a boardwalk to the waterfront. Is that correct?
Correct. And I can pull up that language, what that looks like if you want, just so everybody can see it. That's not it. Pedestrian. Oh, sorry. That's why. I'm in the wrong one. So land, this sub 17 and 17.240.070 says land to accommodate the planned Coos waterfront walkway alignment, and then talks about being in the TSP, shall be provided through either existing right-of-way that is created and dedicated to the city, or easements dedicated through development approval, and with a minimum width of 14 feet. So that's what developers are required to do today. Staff hasn't been enforcing it just because it doesn't really work right there. It's not in our TSP currently. But it's a balance of providing.
If it doesn't work now, why wouldn't we work on changing that?
I guess it doesn't work because it's not currently in the TSP, so the way it's worded, there's nothing to fall back on. So we don't have to. I mean, it's definitely it's a balancing act, right? We want industry. We also want to maintain our access to the waterfront. You don't have to take that line. That was you don't have to adopt that. That was an attempt to make it less specific than not the 14. This could be very flexible in how that access is provided to the waterfront. So it makes it easier for staff and the applicant to work together. How do we get this access?
I have concerns. I appreciate your perspective, Heidi. I have concerns of us not allowing citizens to have access to the water. And I think back to 2010 when I went to the Oregon Heritage Conference in Astoria, and I asked those city planners to come, and they actually met with the city of North Bend and the city of Coos Bay on how to show both cities what could be done, because that is an industrial site. There is a port, there is a cruise ship terminal, there's all the things, and yet there is complete access for the public to the water. And I think it's such a success story. And Front Street, that has always been my dream, right, is to safely, but to make sure, and my concern is if we take it out unintentionally, we will then not do exactly what I think this community wants, is for people to have access to the water, to understand the rich history that is down there. Sauce Brothers, all that history is so incredibly important, and that's the vision. I know it's taking longer than we thought it would, right? But that's the vision for me, is to have people down there, to have the sense of place, to understand the history, and to have access to that beautiful, beautiful bay, because there's nothing better. You know better than I do, Heidi, right? It's glorious. Sorry, I'm passionate, and I will wrap this up, but I think it would be a mistake to take that out of this plan.
No, I think it's a working waterfront, and it's an attraction that we've talked about through the planning down there. We have our right-of-ways that have not been utilized for that access you're talking about. But what I'm concerned about is that we have a language that we have not been enforcing, and you're telling us that we can enforce it. It'd be difficult. So I guess that's my dilemma here.
Yeah, because it refers to very specific, like, design in the TSP, that's no longer in there. It's talking about planning for this very specific boardwalk, a 14 feet width minimum. And so there was something very specific behind the text that was adopted, but without removing the intent is access to the water, whether that's through a glorious boardwalk or some other means that we can negotiate. The goal with leaving it in here is that you still maintain that ability to work together to maintain the access to the water.
No, I mean, I think, I understand what you're saying, but practicality is, I think we have ability to, that's why I think we've protected the right-of-ways. And I think that we need to find a way to make those available, and there haven't been. And I think that we need to have access to the waterfront in however we can. But what I'm concerned about is that we're not doing it, and we haven't done it. So
that's the cleanup. This is the code cleanup. Now it makes it easier for us to do that and work.
With that in there.
Correct. Work with the property owners, the developers, to do it, but in a way that makes sense for both the city and.
Okay, so it's going to be something that's going to be palatable to both, is that what you're telling me?
That's the intent, right? And that's how it leaves it open. It doesn't pigeonhole you into a very specific.
Okay, so theoretically, we adopt this, and then something happens on the development, and we have someone that comes to the council and appeals this process, or puts us in a situation. So how do we move forward with it in this language, in this fashion?
So if somebody is not wanting to provide the access, then I think we work through that. They provide the justification. If it's something that rises to the level of council says, okay, yeah, we agree, then we just make findings of why we've changed course on that.
There's a process for a developer or whatever saying that this would be very difficult and the justification just can't be met, whatever, right?
Yes, we can make that happen, for sure.
All right. Does that, I don't know if that.
I'm confused. Describe or define access to the waterfront. If somebody comes to our private property, or Kunz's private property, or Coos Bay Towboat's private property, or Knutson's private property, and goes, I want to access to the waterfront, do they get to walk across your property and go touch the water? Or is that walking on the boardwalk and visually seeing the waterfront?
Thank you, that's the question.
So what this is first and foremost, it's about development, so new development. So any of you existing developments down there, you're not just going to be imposed. The public can just come on your property because this is in the code. The intent with access to the water, it is to get access to the waterfront. I'm sure, you know, we can talk about, well, what does that mean? And council can give some direction on, is that touching the water? Is that seeing the water? Is that having, I mean, right now I would say it's access to the water, right up to the shore to the water. But
Well, I think you answered my question for the people that are there.
Existing.
And the system that's been working for safety and liability. It works new development. You're talking about new development. And I think that we also talked about for that right-of-way and the vacation, that there wasn't any there, but there's going to be more, so it was substituted, and they did get even better.
Right.
So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just another question for new development then. Some of those pieces of property they're not large. So how much, I mean, that could be a deal breaker for development. So we could end up with properties, and I know that there are probably people sitting at the dais that would have no problem if there was no development. But I think that the two need to coexist and work together. So are we creating a process where we don't encourage any development down there?
Well, again, going back to.
And could private development already in place be challenged, much like we saw out near Lighthouse Beach?
Okay, I don't think that there would be, with the existing development, any challenges here, because the code doesn't say, and it's not the intent that we go and take, land to provide public access for an existing development. So the idea is when you're coming in with a new development, vacant land, you can make something work with your development, and it doesn't have to be any large thing. It could, if it's small property and something small works, we talk about that, we negotiate it. If it's a commercial waterfront restaurant, maybe outside dining right on the waterfront is providing that public access. That's the kind of, we want to leave it open. And I think council can, again, you can say, like, this is what I think it is, and this is what I think it isn't, and that gives staff direction. But the goal for staff is to leave it open so that we have more room to work with people and it not be a barrier because you didn't provide 14 feet width of easement. We have to stop the discussion. Let's talk about what that looks like.
Okay.
And I believe the only one comment I wanted to make, Councillor Kilmer, is that the whole point of the Front Street Blue Plan is to encourage development. So that is the entire point. That is why we want to do all this work. And so I just want to be clear that that's what we're trying, at least I personally am trying to accomplish.
Okay, and then one more question, and maybe the answer is in here, I need to read it better. But I actually was working on a project years ago where there was an existing building, and so Heidi talked about several that are already existing, and God forbid something should happen and maybe one of those buildings are destroyed and have to be rebuilt. Does that change in here how those existing grandfathered properties could be impacted and have to provide access if a significant portion of their property were destroyed and had to be rebuilt under this new?
Yeah, so I've pulled up the non-conforming provisions under 17-328-010, and generally you can maintain your non-conformance. There is already in the code something about if it were to be destroyed, which is what I think you're getting at. And this is to a cause to an extent exceeding 75% of the replacement cost. The structure may be restored to its previous condition and all non-conforming use rights maintained, provided such restoration is commenced within a period of 24 months after the date of destruction. So it gives 2 years, right? 2 years time. Let's say a fire, the whole building burns down. You have 2 years to come back and say, I want to rebuild, and we're not going to make you have to do all the new things. You can just rebuild. Thank you.
All right, so, just to Councilor DeNovo's point, is like Coos Bay Village is a perfect example of water access, I guess, is what we're talking about. You work with the developer, made it accommodating. Existing ones is not going to happen. I guess if there's an industrial piece of property that they want to develop, they would have to find a way that would be safe in both aspects for them and the public. But that's going to be something that can be discussed and worked on, right?
Correct.
Okay. Troy, Sarah, Carmen, any comments on this?
This is Sarah. I have a comment about something different if we're ready to move on.
Okay. That's
Okay. I just want to say thank you to Chelsea, who sat on I think it was Chelsea, you'll have to remind me, 2024, the legislative body put together a House bill to direct the DLCD to create a work group around regulatory barriers for childcare. Chelsea applied and was appointed to that committee and did some great work. And there's a great, I think, 52-page summary of all of the recommendations. And we are out in front as a city by making these changes now. I'm hearing different childcare advocacy groups working across the state to help work with cities to make these changes, and they're coming up against quite a few barriers. So I want to commend you for that. Secondly, I do have concerns about the change to the fencing. I think to inspire new development, there needs to be a level of beautification in the city, and I'm not sure that we obtain that with chain link fencing, even if it is block.
Okay.
Those are my comments. Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, anyone else on the council? I'm skipping around a little bit here, so I just want to make sure we clarify it before we move forward. All right, so all written comments received to date are included in the record. Yes? All written comments received.
I actually wanted to ask a question about the commercial lot portion. I know that we have talked about it in the past where we are commercially zoned properties. We are restricted. We don't have as much. I know that residential is important, but also commercial is as well. By reducing, are we reducing that by saying that
So
the
there's
opportunity for commercial development?
Yeah, so I think I'm not an expert, but commercial development requires a certain amount of land to really make it pencil out to build. And this 15,000 square foot is like a threshold where it's really too small for commercial development. And so that was back when we did our housing production strategies, why that was kind of looked at, like, let's look at these smaller lots. Can we make room for residential? And residential is already allowed in commercial zone, just not, kind of standalone like that. So I don't think it takes away from your ability for commercial development. And further, there's, when you're talking about rezoning, like this isn't a rezone, but if it were, those individual lots are smaller than 2 acres, and so they don't really kind of qualify against your commercial land.
Okay, so anything else? All right, so now all written comments received to date included in the record. Am I right? Yes.
Correct.
Okay, there's no rebuttal from the staff?
No.
And we've already asked, the council members have multiple questions of Chelsea, so we're past that point. Do councilors have any further questions before we close the public hearing? I think we've exhausted that, so we'll close the public hearing. Applicants should have the opportunity to answer any of these last questions as applicants has in the final word in the public hearing. Okay, onward. I now close the public hearing and record the time. What is it, 7:26. Okay, city councilors deliberation and discussion. Now it's time for the city council to deliberate. So the city council, after having conducted the second public hearing on this matter, recommends approval. Am I doing this correctly? I need approval?
So on your last page, Mayor, all the way at the back, there's a motion, recommended motion.
Okay, recommendation, recommendation below. I need a motion to recommend the city council to approve land use application 187-25-00138-PLNG based on the information presented by the applicant. All evidence, the applicant is the city, all evidence in the record to date and the recommended findings of approval as presented, and to enact the ordinance confirming those amendments authorized to the Coos Bay Development Code.
I'll make a motion to approve the land use applicant 187-25-000138-PLNG based on the information presented by the applicant, all evidence in the record to date, and the recommended findings of approval as presented, and enact an ordinance confirming those amendments authorized to the Coos Bay Development Code.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Christine?
An ordinance amending the Coos Bay Municipal Code, Title 17, Coos Bay Development Code for consistency, clarity, and ease of use. Counselor DeNovo? Aye. Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer?
Aye.
Counselor Stevens?
Aye.
Counselor Cribbins?
Aye.
Counselor Matthews?
Aye.
Ordinance number 590 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. And Marcia, you've been so patient, and you're next. Public hearing to consider adoption of Resolution 26-01, amending the state-approved building codes permit fee schedule. Please come up and give us a brief description of where we're at and what's happening.
Okay, so, good evening. At the November 18th meeting, we presented a modification increase to our building permit fee schedule to submit to the state for review and approval. We were granted that by staff. We did submit to the state. They reviewed it. They have approved it. It went public for a 45-day public notice. That period will expire on January 19th. And if council approves, we, the staff, are requesting adoption.
Okay, council, any comments from Marcy before we open the public hearing? So why are these fees being adjusted?
We had not adjusted them since 2017, I believe, and so we are now in line with all our neighboring communities, and hopefully to help adjust, bring into a little better state our fund, 08 fund for the building department.
So is it correct, if my understanding is correct, that this has to be a self-funded operation?
It is.
And that's what these fees do?
Yes.
And so there's no funding coming from the general fund to help offset this?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the intent. Is that done throughout the state that way?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'll move to adopt resolution.
Public hearing?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Marcy. You can go ahead and sit down. So I'm going to open a public hearing on to consideration and adoption of the Resolution 2601, amending the state-approved building codes permit fee schedule. Anyone like to come forth and make any public comments? You're saving it all up for another item here, I can tell. All right. I will close the public hearing, and now Lucinda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move to adopt Resolution 26-02, amending the state-approved building codes fee schedule.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 26-01, amending the state-approved building codes permit fee schedule. Is there any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Next item, consideration to reduce on-street parking for the proposed Front Street multi-use trail project. I bet we get some comments. All right, Jennifer?
Okay, thank you. The Front Street Blueprint, completed in June 2022, evaluated wayfinding, multimodal transportation, and safety improvements along the Front Street corridor between Market and Fur Avenue. During development of the blueprint, several business owners expressed concern regarding potential loss of on-street parking. In response to those concerns, the city constructed a public parking lot between Cedar and Date Avenue, adding 37 new parking stalls to support downtown businesses and visitors. The city has now entered into final design with David Evans and Associates for the northern portion of the Front Street study limits from Cedar Street to Fur Avenue. During the blueprint phase, preliminary concepts anticipated approximately 30 on-street parking stalls along the east side of Front Street. However, detailed engineering and safety analysis completed during the final design indicates that only 16 on-street stalls can be safely accommodated. This reduction is necessary to provide a consistent 12-foot wide multi-use trail along the east side of the street that meets current safety and design standards. So it is recognized that any reduction in on-street parking has the potential to affect nearby businesses and property owners. To better understand these impacts, representatives from the Parks Commission's Bike and Pedestrian Fact-Finding Committee canvassed the area and spoke directly with the affected business property owners. Feedback was generally positive, and no significant concerns were raised regarding the proposed reduction in parking. Those representatives were Councilor Matthews and Parks Commissioner Faraday, and they are online tonight too, if they wish to speak. In addition, 21 letters were mailed to Front Street property owners notifying them of the proposed reduction in parking along the east side of Front Street and advising that the issue would be brought before City Council for discussion tonight. So at the authoring of this report, we did not receive any comments from that letter campaign, but on Monday when it was received, I provided you with a copy. That property owner is opposed to the reduction of any on-street parking. They cited safety concerns, and they said consideration of the new needs and safety of the existing community on Front Street should take precedent to who might come to the street in the future via intermodal transportation options.
Jennifer, can you put the exhibit up so the citizens can see that too?
We sure can. Christine, it's the first attachment on the staff report. So while she's doing that, in conclusion, while the loss of parking is not ideal, the Front Street Blueprint establishes a long-term vision that prioritizes safety and accessible pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Implementing that vision may require trade-offs, including reductions in on-street parking. The anticipated long-term benefits might include increased pedestrian and bicycle activity, improved safety, enhanced connectivity between the downtown and the waterfront, increased business visibility and foot traffic, and a more welcoming environment for residents and visitors. However, council may want to preserve the on-street parking. If this is the decision, the project will still move forward, but there will be areas on the east side of Front Street where the width of the multi-use trails are reduced and bicycle traffic and potentially pedestrians may have to be directed to the west side of Front Street. This can be explored more if necessary. So we also have the project manager, Maureen White, from David Evans and Associates in attendance, and she can answer any design questions. So what staff is requesting is direction from council to approve or not the reduction of 14 on-street parking stalls to accommodate a proposed multi-use trail along North Front Street.
Okay, so how come we don't have this as a public hearing here to take comments?
You can take.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, I mean, I got a lot of people here that I know that's going to talk about this, so I'm going to open this up for public comments. So, you know, as it's been mentioned by Jennifer, that, do we have any other presentation before I move forward on this, Jennifer? That's it? Yeah. So, there was a blueprint Front Street plan, and myself, Lucinda, Heidi Sauce was involved, some others, and we had multiple hearings and comments. In fact, Heidi set up meetings. I went to all of them, I think one by myself, and then there's others that we got involved with. David Evans also, who was doing this. And the intent behind this is this working waterfront development on Front Street, and that's where we're at. To determine this, and I know that there's a shift in parking, but I think that came up, and I'm willing to listen to everyone about this, and we can discuss it again, obviously. But the point is that we did a parking lot that cost us, I don't know how many millions of dollars, to offset some of this parking. We're also, because of Dale and Heidi, we came to an agreement. They gave up some of their property so we can have parallel parking there, which also is going to increase parking. So there's a shift and a balance. And I agree that that parking is critical, and I have other counselors up here that might have a difference of opinion what we should do here. The issue is, in my opinion, and I'm going to point to the port now, that if we don't have the rail, with the rail there, it restricts us to what we can and can't do with parking. And if we want sidewalks down there, and we want this to be an attraction for tourists, and like it is, like, let's say Newport, there's sidewalks on both sides, and we're going to have bicycle paths, and those are the type of things that we are looking for development. This, of course, is first phase. We're not doing all of Front Street. We can't afford to do that, but it was time that we move forward on something, and we started on the north end, and we're going to move forward south. So I think this plan, in my opinion, is pretty representative of what we want, and it also accommodates everything. I know there's some others that are not in favor of moving forward on this case. But, in Heidi's letter and testimony, it shows, as she stated, Coos Bay Village is a draw for tourists. It's happening whether we want it or not. And if we're not proactive in trying to put a plan together, in my opinion, then it's just going to run amok, and it's going to be a problem. That's my feeling. So, I mean, I would love for the port, and I will it's my turn to come forth and come to your meeting, but I would love to see that part of the rail taken out because of the discussion I've heard. I know that there's some challenge to do that, but for us, if that was to happen, then these 14 parking places that we're talking about could shift back. And they've accommodated that in the design. If that is able to happen, we can shift back and get those parking places. Am I correct? So that's where we're at. I don't know. I'm going to also ask the port when I come to the meeting to do this, because when we do this Front Street section here, we also have to be concerned about how the rail and the paving needs to be taken care of and fixed. Right now, I think it's a safety hazard, and I would be surprised if anyone doesn't agree with that, but we need to do something. I know there's been some problems, Heidi's reference of bicycles getting flipped, some people having some problems with it. So it's something we're gonna have to address when we do this section. And so there's my 2 cents worth.
I have a question, Mayor
Go
Benetti. If you plan to make a formal presentation to the port to see
No,
if...
I don't know about formal, but go ahead.
Well, a presentation to the
Well,
port.
okay.
Then I don't see a point in having much more conversation about this, because until we get their answer, there's no decision to be made. So I feel like we need to hear from the port to see what they're doing for us to make an informed decision on this project, because it is so important to the businesses down there and to future access for citizens.
The problem that I see with that is I think there's some, and they can come up and answer this. There's some hurdles they have to cross, and it's going to take some time for this to happen. So the approach that has been taken, so we can move forward on this development, because we've been trying to do that, is to do a design that can shift if necessary. Now, if the council decides that's not the case, and we want to go another, 2 or 3 years more to
Well,
try
we
to
could
get this
probably
resolved.
ask for a letter of intent that allows us to do this without having them to have the funds to pull the railroad if they want to do that, and that would allow us to continue development. Because I agree with you, getting this done is really important. I'm just saying, we're in a unique position right now, and if the port were interested in a letter of intent that said that they weren't going to be using this access, we have the ability then to make the decision to move the development forward.
Can we hear from someone from the port on the process that would be necessary to get this done, and what kind of time frame we're looking at, if you decided to do this?
Sorry, this was not, we didn't set you up for this, I promise.
If the commission was willing to do this, what kind of time frame are we looking at? And if you could come up and give us an idea, please. I appreciate you coming, too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
But you brought.
She's
you brought,
second-guessing
you-
if you should have come.
I know. No, I was just writing this all down so I could take it to the commission this month. And so we will discuss it and what that process could look like. We are talking about, obviously, with the Swingspan Bridge being out of service currently, and potential projects of the railroad south of Coos Bay. We're looking into exploring a rails to trails opportunity. We're not quite there yet. It's all still in an exploratory phase. So I would like to talk to the commission more about this and try to give you a better timeline. But currently, obviously, we're not moving forward with moving the rail.
theoretically, I mean, we're looking at one section, and I understand that if I understand correctly from discussions I've had, if you decommission the line, then there's a process you have to go through.
Correct.
I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking that, the northbound part stay whatever it may be, and hopefully you can maybe accommodate whatever needs to be done for that development. But south, I don't see, this is me personally, and I'm biased, I don't see a lot of development for that rail necessary to stay in that spot. So we're at a situation that we would need to have that rail fixed when we do this development, that's going to be safe, which would be a cost to the port. I'm
Indeed.
suggesting that if we're able to find a way to remove that rail, the city would probably, well, I'm speaking again for myself, that not all the rest. I would like to see the city take that action and remove the rail and fix the street and accommodate multiple things, parking and development. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay.
So, but if that all was to happen, how much, Sam, I'm not going to get an answer if I come to the port, is what you're telling me.
Not without us further discussing it. Correct. So there is a lot of planning with that, and then we would have to take it to the Surface Transportation Board and to remove that line. So
there's
we
a
are
lot of
looking.
things that need to be done if that
There
was
are.
going to be accomplished. Okay.
It is a lengthy process.
All right.
And I
Pardon?
apologize for it is a lengthy process.
Lengthy being like,
I don't know yet. That's why we're waiting to hear back from
All right.
the Surface
all
Transportation
right,
Board.
so that's what we have for that. So how do you want to proceed? We need to take public comments.
Yeah, this is just my comment. I know that there are other counselors who might have comments on this. I think it would be interested. The commission, the newly appointed commission and this executive director have been very responsive and have worked quickly. And I would hope that maybe this would be an opportunity. I understand it's all process, but it would be nice to know what that looked like. But again, there's other counselors that probably have comments on this.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public comments for this topic. And I know there's people here talking about that are probably opposed to taking the parking off. And so this would be the time to come forth and give us your name and business you represent and your comment. Anyone? It doesn't matter, for, against, it doesn't matter. Yes?
Mike.
Sure.
Okay, Mike Powder, Coos Bay. I'm on the mend again from knee surgery and a hip break and all that good stuff. But I got on my bike the other day and I can ride my bike again. I'm one person that would like to ride my bike into Coos Bay. I don't live far from it, but when I go to Seattle, I can go from downtown Seattle to downtown Everett safely. Here, I can't go from Empire to downtown Coos Bay without almost getting killed. But down at the waterfront, it's a great area. It really is. It's a people gathering place. The food trucks has a good vibe to it. The Seven Devils has a good vibe to it and stuff like that. But down there at we neglect everything except we seem to have a thing where we have to make so much parking for cars. We want cars everywhere. Well, a lot of time we trip over them. But I'm disabled and I sometimes drive my Sprinter van and I go to the market. I can do this sort of stuff and I have no trouble finding parking. It's a lot of people want to be able to park right next to where they want to eat. And sometimes they drive a 20-foot long truck and just one person in it and takes up all the space. So we have a parking problem, and that's we just seem to think that we've got to have so much parking. Quite frankly, we have a lot of parking. If you look, I've never really seen to where people have had to park quite a distance away and take a cab in or something like that. We don't have the parking problems you get in big cities. If we do anything with the rail, it would be nice to make sure that other forms of transportation get a share of that. Ripping out the rail just to make more parking would be a detrimental. We have to consider other people's modes of transportation. But other than that, on top of that, if we had a nice little tram that ran from North Bend to Coos Bay, that would be nicer too.
Yeah, if you got the dollars to do it.
I don't quite have them yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I was excited, Christine Moffett, Coos Bay. I was excited to see this, and I applaud the effort, and I think going at least with the part way is a sign of progress and moving on this rather than putting it off. I think it could take a while to get an official abandonment because it's just recently been part of the agenda with the closure of the swing bridge. So, I mean, there's a lot of layers on this and a lot of emotions. So I think moving forward with this plan is a really good step to go on record supporting this with hopefully a larger goal down the road.
Thanks. Dean?
I would like to just back up what Mr. Powder said. In Monterey Bay, they moved the parking back a couple blocks back from the waterfront, and it changed the entire mood of the entire city. It is so fabulous. There are no cars right by the water at all. All the delivery trucks, everything are back a couple blocks, and like the plaza where the Starbucks is. These sidewalks, they go nowhere, and they're 4 feet off the ground. So if we're going to do something, let's instead of doing it one chunk at a time, let's figure it out and do the whole thing and just make it really, fabulous, because it's a fabulous river. Anyway.
All right. Any other comments? Yes, come on up.
Kobe Green, Kuntz Machine and Welding, 600 North Front Street. My concern at this point is I see you guys doing a section of the project that has not much congestion, and you're losing this many places. So how many more spots will we lose when we get down to Kuntz as far as where it's a lot more congested?
Well, I think you were at the meeting when I was there. We discussed this. And the thing is that I don't know what those ramifications will be further down. I think that's where we're taking this in sections. And I can be truthful with you. I mean, we accommodated, in my opinion, offset the parking with the parking lot and the parallel parking we're doing. Down the street, it was going to determine, a different situation, different criteria. And one of the things that I mentioned multiple times when we all met is that keeping the businesses there is critical, because it's a working waterfront and it's what draws the people. That's what it's about. And we don't want to change that dynamic and that draw. I think it's great that you're down there working. I'm great that we have a tugboat. Great that we have Sauce Brothers. I'm sorry that Knutsen's not there. But the thing is, that's what is the attraction. And we don't want to change that. And so if we did something that was detrimental to one of the businesses down there because of the parking, I think it would be a problem. But I also mentioned when the auto body shop was there, if we needed to, then now again, this is my perception, I'm only 1 out of 7, and the staff might have totally different ideas, but if we even had to think about permit parking so those businesses had parking for themselves, are there things that we need to consider? We need to think outside the box what's going to be a benefit for everyone. That's my take. Now, I don't know, I might not even be sitting here when you guys get down there to that part of the development, but I think if we set the tone and it's squared away and we have things moving forward. And I agree with Councilor Delvo. Probably I'm pushing for this now to make a decision, and we probably should go and make a presentation to the port and kind of get a suggestion of where they're going. But it's critical, I think, that we have sidewalks on both sides. And, I walk there all the time.
You walk more than anybody else.
Okay, and so it's
Hey,
dangerous.
I take offense to that. I walk.
So it's dangerous down there without sidewalks on both sides. I guess I could, and I'm always zigzagging back and forth. And so if we want this to be something that's an attraction and ties into Coos Bay Village and eventually to the boardwalk, we have to take, I believe, these type of steps in development. That's all.
And just a little off topic, but connected. If we are going to build sidewalks all the way down,
Right.
could we maybe fix the drains that go under said sidewalks before the sidewalks go in?
Jennifer, I think you're accurate, correct?
Yeah, we are looking into that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and I applaud you guys working down there, and you've been the heartbeat of that area, and we don't want to change that, really. And so, call me up, I'll come down, we'll talk about it, I'll drag some counselors with me, or we can meet here, so however you want to do it.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Mayor Benetti, I still think, since you said you were pushing, I'm going to push back. I think that we owe it to the businesses down there to at least have a meeting with the port. We have a port commissioner here. We have the executive director here. I imagine we could at least have that conversation in the next few weeks to start the conversation. It could come back to this council maybe next month to get an update to allow us again to try to make a better informed decision. Would I love in my movie for you to say, yes, you can have it, right? I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I think it might get us a little bit further down the road for us to make a better decision for this council.
I agreed with you.
No pun intended, yes.
I agreed with you. So, not always. So if the council doesn't have a problem, I think that we should probably meet with the port and see what the situation is. Doesn't mean that we won't adopt this, but if things can change, then there might be a different direction that we go in.
Councilors,
Pardon?
this is Troy.
Yes.
I think that the executive director of the port already mentioned that whether they're considering it or not, it's going to be a lengthy process. I think we've already done all the planning, the research. I'd like to see us move forward with this.
There's going to be an expense, I think, Troy. There'd be an expense if we had to reevaluate this down the road. And so, I mean, if we can kind of get an idea of where we're at, I think that we could build this out in a fashion that could beat the time frame. That's my take.
I think we're looking at years for them to be able to do anything. Even if they decided tomorrow, that's what they
I
wanted
think we
to
have
do.
a commissioner here, Troy, who wanted to make a comment from the commission, or excuse me, from the port, who's raising her hand.
Okay.
Yes. I just said Carmen.
Hi, Mayor Benetti and councilors. My name is Elise Hamner, and I'm on the Port of Coos Bay Commission. I'm one of 5 commissioners. I want to say that thank you for all the work you've been doing with Linnell, our CEO. We have a great relationship with Coos Bay, and I'm really, really pleased with how things have been going. I believe when this whole concept ultimately came out, back in 2010, whenever, Mr. Lundy brought you that map. I think the port was part of that whole discussion, and we've been here working with you off and on since then. Thank you so much for listening to Kobe from Coots Machine. I know we have Coos Bay towboats here. From a Port Commission standpoint, we'd love you to connect more with those businesses as much as you can. They are vital. They also have a lot of traffic that does go in and out, and there is, more discussion maybe to have there. As to the rail, the Port Commission has asked staff to first take a look at the railroad bridge, give us a report, which they did, and then to move forward and do an analysis of what it takes to deal with the railroad from North Bend to Coquille. So yes, it will take time. You mentioned, I think early on, that you could potentially do a plan that would look at maybe some options if you phased it in. I mean, I would encourage you to do that. It might take us a year to decide what to do on the rail. But please give us that time to resolve that. It is an issue to be in the street. If we're not going to use the rail anymore, then yes, I mean, maybe it should be moved, but we need to go through a process with our constituents also and have people be able to weigh in and have that conversation. I'd love to do maybe a joint meeting with our commission and the Coos Bay City Council and hear the public's thoughts on the rail piece once we know what we're required to do to either decommission it or, take the easement and use it for a different use.
So I think it was mentioned, and we have a design for both. So we can start with this and then phase it in later on if the rail was to leave. But in the meantime, I guess I'm going to propose to you that rail and that street needs to be repaired. So I think that needs to be part of the conversation that we have. And I just want you to realize there's a cost associated with that. And you guys would probably have the rail would probably have a better idea what that cost would be, because the way it is right now, it's not safe. So.
Well, I can't comment on that piece.
I'm just saying that that's a discussion that needs to be this needs to be part of the discussion.
We would love to have you come to a Port Commission meeting and do a presentation on the whole project. I think it would be awesome.
All right, we'll be there.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Oh, and one other thing, Elise. I've talked to all the businesses down there multiple times.
I know. I hear that you walk by. They see you all the time. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Carmen. I know.
All right. Well, as someone who walked around downtown or down in this focused area and talked with all the business owners that I could, at least get in front of, I do want to mention that overwhelmingly it was received with a positive response from those people that I spoke with. Increasing foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, just beautification of this entire area is welcomed in a large way. I understand that the initial drawing had more parking than the design currently has at the moment, or at least the proposed design. And, when we were reviewing this from the Parks Commission standpoint, it didn't make much sense to have pedestrians going across the street and going zigzagging back and forth for a very small portion of Front Street when we could just make it a pretty good access point on one side, on the east side, and just make it a nice thoroughfare in general. That being, said, there's lots of change that could come down the line, and I think all of this is open for amendment in the future. This is a fairly basic design, with or without the rail. We're still going to be moving people and cars throughout this area. We're still going to be having businesses operate and having ingress egress issues that we're going to need to address. I think this plan does a really good job of addressing those concerns, while also getting us to the point where we're working on that, towards that goal of getting the public closer to the bay and having a more bay-centric downtown. I do a lot of traveling up and down the coast and around the world, really, and the best coastal communities have a robust public interface with waterways, and that is something that I think Coos Bay has lacked severely, especially since it's right out in front of us, but it's just not super accessible. This really does help to increase that accessibility, even without putting people on private property, which I don't believe we should be doing. This is a public right of way that allows people to view the bay and then has access points that are within the public sphere. This is a lot of work's gone into this. This is that 100% we're hoping for that 100% design in this particular section. With the reduction of, less than 20, I can't remember how many it was, parking spaces, but the addition of 37 offsite, I have yet to see that parking lot full. So I don't believe we're reaching a capacity issue at this moment. There is a more focused and organized parking structure on the east side of Front Street, down by the Sauce Brothers piece of property, which is on the north end of Front Street. Instead of this no man's land, people park in every which way they want to. I think that this will really clean things up, make things much more streamlined. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I've looked at this plan a lot. I also want to say that staff, specifically Jennifer, has worked tirelessly to help me to understand that and to help the Parks Commission understand this whole plan. And I feel very comfortable with the work that staff has done and the Parks Commission. And we're trying to get out there in front of things and hope that this would make sense. I think that this will feel much better than it currently does, even with the lack of the perceived or the loss of the perceived parking that is exhibited in this design. But it's really looking good, and I'm really proud of this, and I think we should move forward.
All right, Stephanie?
I guess I would just like to offer a different perspective. I was recently at an event at 999 Front Street, and I could not find parking. And that was in the winter. I am concerned about losing 14 spaces, and that's with the addition of the new parking lot. I'm not saying that it happens all the time, but I can imagine with the improvements that will be made to Front Street that you will see much more activity, and the loss of those 14 spaces is going to be felt more so throughout the year. Like I said, I was at an event and I could not find parking. I ended up parking in a private lot.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Was there open spaces in the new parking lot?
I was more down by the 999, and it was pouring rain, so I did not go farther south.
All right. Well, just for clarification, then the new parking lot is a half of a block away from the 999 building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
it
within
was,
walking
it was
distance.
probably full then because everyone, I was almost at the history museum.
Okay, so,
Okay.
so let me just make a suggestion. Look, first, hi Heidi, come on up.
So, Mayor, are we still in public comment or are we moving forward?
I never
I mean,
heard you close it.
No,
Right.
we'll close the comments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This will be quick. I appreciate your observation about not having parking, and the reason, and I appreciate the gentleman that said there was plenty of parking, and there is plenty of parking right now. But I can assure you that I'm working pretty hard at having 737 Front Street, which was an enterprise, be an enterprise, a daily enterprise again, and that's a restaurant, hopefully, and I hope to generate foot traffic and parking there. And I also, Josie's Art Lab we are vacant. We've got vacancies. When those vacancies fill up, they're going to be the owners, there's going to be their customers and clients, and hopefully we have events and purposes to come to Front Street because, like Lucinda said, we have the same vision. I guarantee you we have the same vision to make it vibrant and active and crowded. And the more parking we can have, and Jennifer's done a fantastic job, and it's like herding cats. So that's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so I'm going to yes, come on up. Is that you?
Hi, my name's Colin Cooper. I work at Coos Bay Towboat. As part of the proposed plan, it's not quite hitting us yet, but will be shortly. A lot of the parking that looks like you guys are trying to get rid of is oversized vehicles, industrial vehicles, all people that work at those businesses. They don't really fit in the parking structure you guys have built. Yes, I do drive a 20-foot truck, but I have 4 kids and, can't be retired yet. So just seeing some of that go away when I got to carry 60 pounds of gear to work is hard. So that's it.
Right, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to make a suggestion. First of all, I think if I could have more parking, it'd be wonderful and accommodate the businesses, but we need to accommodate sidewalks and other things for safety and development for the restaurants and whatever else may be coming. So that's a contingency that I think that we need to think about. I like the plan that it is. I wish that we could have more parking. But with all that said, we've been invited to go to the port and have a discussion. And I think before we do make a decision tonight, that we kind of go down there, talk to the port, and get an idea of where things might be going. And then we're talking 1 month. I'd like this to come back and ratify this plan, whatever it may be.
Well, we'll have a better idea of what the port's going to do, I think. When are your meetings, the Port Commission meetings? The third Thursday. Next Thursday.
Okay.
It's my birthday. We'll hope for a yes.
All right.
Yeah.
This coming Thursday? Next Thursday. Okay. All right. So that's my suggestion. Sarah?
Thanks. I think that's a good suggestion. I just want to say that if we increase multimodal transport, it's going to mean that less people are driving cars to access those businesses. And I think this council knows that I am in favor of this development, and I hear the concerns from business owners. But I agree with Councillor Matthews. The greatest cities and places I've ever visited have more multimodal transport than we currently have. I think it will increase tourism. I think it will increase foot traffic to those businesses, and I think it will increase safety, and it will increase new businesses wanting to come into our community. So I'm in full favor of the plan that you've proposed to talk with the port. But I also think we need to continue forward momentum on this.
I think everyone's kind of aligned that way, but I think that we need just to get some more detail and ideas where we're at. So we've taken this long. Unfortunately, it's taken this long. So taking another month and to just kind of talk to people and have a feeling of what things might be would be the way to go. Is there any disagreement with that?
No, I would like to say, you said it took us a long time, Mayor Benetti, but remember, this plan, the initial plan started in 2016, and and then the formalized plan was in 2022. It's 2025 now. That's not so bad for city government, so I feel like we have done a lot. Yeah, 2026, thank you, yes.
Businesses feel for,
Thank you,
yeah,
Arlene,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like we have done some good work.
I'm not saying that we haven't.
And we need
it's
to
just
be
that
reminded of
I'd just
that.
like to get this finalized. Anyway, so the counselors that are virtual, are we all right with this or not?
I am in favor of making sure everybody feels comfortable with this, with the acknowledgement that there will be some compromise that will have to be made on both sides in order to find something that we can move forward with. And I understand that, and I'm just hoping that we can find that path forward where everybody feels like they've been heard and that things will be better than they are today.
All right. So that
I agree with that, but I do want to just acknowledge that there was a long process to get us here that included multiple opportunities for businesses to be part of the building of this plan. So yes, we can take another month, but this isn't new. This shouldn't be new to folks.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, and I want to thank everyone for
Forgive
attending.
me,
Oh, I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine. I agree with Councilor Stevens, Councilor Matthews, and I suppose my point is this has been a long time and this has been discussed, and I'm not sure what we're going to gain by moving it another month forward. But that being said, I'm willing to support the majority and move that direction if that's what we need to do. But I am in support of this, and I'm ready to move forward with it.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. We have two designs, is what we have right now. I would like to know.
We're
Yes,
that's it. But we were only discussing one issue tonight
but
to move that part forward.
and we will be moving it forward, I believe, Troy. If we could save dollars and design and time, taking a month to do it, wouldn't it be prudent for us to do it in that fashion? Is what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yes, and again, I will agree. I will move with the majority of the group, and we'll support that decision.
All right. Okay, anyway, I want to thank everyone for attending. It was great to see the port come here. It's our turn to come there and see what we can figure out here. And I want to remind anyone, I am more than willing to come down and talk about this and see if there's something that we need to address that we have forgotten. Heidi knows better than anyone that I'm willing to do that, and I'll throw that out there to anyone. So I'm more than available to come down, talk to you, have coffee, whatever, take a walk. So anyway, thank you so much. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just before we close the public hearing on this, or the public comment spot, Jamie Faraday, who was accompanying me throughout the meet and greet on Front Street when we were bringing this plan to everybody, he had pre-crafted a little response or a statement that he was unable to share because he had to leave the meeting. And I'd like to just enter that into the record. He says, number one, as we stand, there exists more parking than ever in recent past, and with the new parking lot. Number two, this area is a crucial piece in the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, and has the distinct potential for improving the lack of safe and efficient transit. Number three, it is used by cyclists and pedestrians, runners, walkers, sightseers, even though it can be challenging with a set of tracks in the roadway. And number four, talking with the businesses between Cedar and Fir, other than Mrs. Sauce, who we didn't get to meet that day, this plan was met with overwhelming positive feedback. So I just wanted to get that in there. He asked me to share that.
All right, thanks. All right, with that, we're going to move on to the city manager's report. Anyway, again, thank you everyone for attending, all right? Thanks. Nicole?
Yes, thank you. So the first thing, we already talked about it a little bit tonight, but we have a screen that's down. It's actually a projector, which are fairly old and really difficult to get replacement parts. So we are looking at different options in this room. I don't know what that's going to look like, but we've gotten some quotes. So just let you know we're working on that. This Saturday, we have a couple of events to, maybe some folks want to attend. OBAB, again, is going to start up their 2026 cleanups. They're actually going to be at the Millicoma Marsh this Saturday, 1 to 3. And then also Senator Markley is going to be holding a town hall in North Bend at the community center starting at 3. And that is all I was going to share with us tonight.
That's it? All right. Stephanie?
I don't have too much to say. I just really appreciate the public coming out today. I appreciate seeing all the folks here tonight. And just real quick, wanted to make a comment that I grew up on the waterfront. I grew up watching the ships. I rode my bike on from Front Street before the History Museum was there, all the way around the bay, but spent most of my time on Front Street and the boardwalk before the boardwalk was there. And there were log trucks, and there was industry, and there were warehouses, and there were all those sorts of things. That's how we got around when I was a kid, because our parents were working. So I understand and appreciate the waterfront and the work. I believe that we have to be considerate of our working waterfront, and I would be interested in talking more with the folks who have businesses down there, and would make myself available. My phone number is published on the website, so if you have anything that I need to know, I would be happy to take that information. That's all I have.
Right, Lucinda?
I just want to thank the citizens for coming out. I really want to commend the port. We put you in the hot seat a couple times, so thank you. Appreciate that, and I appreciate Commissioner Elise helping us answer some of those questions as well. There are times that people think that we rubber stamp things, and I think tonight's meeting is a perfect example that we don't, and this is part of the process, and we all come with different opinions and different perspectives in hopes that we make the best decision for this community. So I just really want to thank the council, the staff for all the work, and I just really appreciate my fellow councilors. Thanks.
Thanks. Carmen?
All right. I'll just jump right in. I want to say thank you to the staff who's really done a ton of work. That's evident by tonight's agenda, from Front Street blueprint plans to code amendments. Staff is working tirelessly to make things better for this community, whether that's through streamlining and making our application and permitting process more user-friendly and easier to digest, or helping us to design what our future home will look like and how we interact with it. And I just really am very grateful for the team that we have. It's clear to me that everybody's working at a high level to make this work as best they can. And then on a more personal note, as a business owner in the waterfront area who receives numerous deliveries through semis and does their own deliveries on a regular basis and carries lots of stuff into their business, there are ways to make this work. And I'm in a parking constrained section of the waterfront. That being said, being on the waterfront as a business owner has been a dream of mine. It's been something I wanted to do since I started in my entrepreneurial interests, bringing the waterfront to the public in a way that they can interact with it on a more regular basis, feeling more included in this waterfront access has been a goal of mine through my business. As someone who grew up here as well, I don't feel like I interacted with the Bay as much as I would like. I was a part of the Surfrider Foundation. We started a community paddle called Stand Up for the Bay that just was basically to show the recreational opportunities that existed right out in front of our front door, basically. And that has been something that I want to continue to highlight what our bay offers to us, recreationally, and just it's part of our space, our collective space. And I don't feel like I had access to that as much as I wanted as a young resident of Coos Bay. And now that Coos Bay Village is here and is providing that opportunity, it is honestly a dream come true. Looking at that abandoned lot for decades growing up and seeing this potential, seeing its potential, it was hard to look at it knowing I didn't have a way to make it better. And then along comes a developer like Mr. Drobot and Daniel Graham, and they bring a vision into fruition. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that. And I gotta say that interacting on the bayfront and inviting the public into these spaces, although mine is very public facing, has been an extreme something I've been extremely grateful for. And I really hope that as a community, we find ways to include the public in the water, our waterways, the gem of our downtown, if you will. And I really hope that we are equitable in the ways we allow that access to be obtained. And so I really appreciate people trying to think outside the box with how that's going to look. I like people being able to identify what will be the hurdles so that we can find ways to address those hurdles and maybe make them less of a hurdle. Maybe it's something, there's always a creative way to find a path forward. And I appreciate everybody coming in today to give their testimony as to what parts of this plan are not going to work for them, how it will affect their businesses, and let's find a way forward if we can. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Troy?
I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
All right. Sarah? Oh, she did? All right. So anyway, my comments are pretty simple. I'm going to make them short. Anyway, I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. I look for my mayor's message with last year. I just think it's important to realize what we've accomplished in the city. I think it's mind-boggling when we put it together how many millions of dollars in economic development we've done. We don't go out there and talk about it all the time, but when you add it up at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, I should say, it's been really successful. And we couldn't have done it without the staff and the volunteers and this council that I've been so fortunate to work with. So thank you very much. Look forward to a good year for all of us. Good evening. And we have an urban renewal meeting, and so I'll adjourn this meeting, and Stephanie will run the urban renewal. Thank you.
Yes, we do that readily in the downtown for sure. The agency has dedicated annually dollars towards sidewalk improvement. So that is something that the agency could decide to do in a future year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a question for Nicole, if I may. I think if Mr. Lundy does decide to take up your offer, I would remind him that the Boat Building Center that I think he owns also received urban renewal dollars, and the reason that it is the building today is because of the dollars that the city invested in it. A perfect example of putting dollars into a business to provide value, and I'm sure he appreciates that beautiful building he owns.
On the waterfront.
I'll make a motion to approve the improvement grant request of $150,000 of eligible expenses, subject to submittal of any required permits, floodplain and structural.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the improvement grant request of $150,000 of eligible expenses for 1200 Newmark Avenue. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. And that is all we have to come before this body, so I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.